The fourth season of Star Wars The Clone Wars had a lot of legendary story arcs. There was the Battle of Umbara, the Slavers of Zygeria, the Return of Maul, but there's one particularly great arc from that season that tends to be forgotten about. We're talking about the Rako Hardeen arc, comprising the 15th through 18th episodes of Season 4, Deception, Friends and Enemies, The Box, and Crisis on Naboo. In this installment in our series on top 10 underrated Clone Wars arcs, we'll be discussing all 4 of these episodes and what made them the story we never knew we needed.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Before we begin, we highly encourage you to pause this video and actually re-watch the arc. Don't worry, we'll be waiting for you when you get back. If you've watched the episode now, feel free to fast forward to the start of the next video chapter here on YouTube. If not, let's quickly recap what happened in the episode. This story arc started off with the unthinkable, the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. While chasing bounty hunter Rako Hardeen, Obi-Wan is apparently shot and killed. But as the Jedi grieve, especially Anakin, the audience learns that the whole thing was staged.
So, how was my funeral?
Obi-Wan is alive and well, and had faked his own death in preparation to go undercover as Hardeen to get to the bottom of a separatist plot. He does so, and in prison becomes wrapped up with Moralo Ival, the person he's supposed to keep an eye on, as well as with Cad Bane, who Ival had hired to break him out of prison. In disguise as Hardeen, Kenobi teams up with Ival and Bane, escapes from prison and heads to Sereno. Anakin, still grieving Obi-Wan's death, pursues them but is called off by the Jedi Council before he can interfere. On Sereno, Ival, Bane and Kenobi meet with Count Dooku, who has selected the most elite bounty hunters in the galaxy to participate in a contest called the Box, which Moralo Ival designed. Bane and Kenobi both participate and are selected to join Dooku's mission, the attempted kidnapping of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Thanks to Kenobi, the Jedi are able to avert the kidnapping but come frighteningly close to failure when Dooku himself makes an attempt at capturing the Chancellor. Kenobi, with Anakin's help, barely manages to keep Palpatine out of the Separatists' hands. In the end, crisis is narrowly averted and Anakin comes face to face with his greatest fear. As far as plot goes, the Rako Hardeen arc is seriously outside the box, pun absolutely intended. The entire premise of Obi-Wan Kenobi faking his death to go undercover as a bounty hunter is pretty awesome, and so the arc was pretty much bound to be great from the get-go. But as always, the writers of the Clone Wars went above and beyond to make this arc better than awesome. There are 2 elements of the arc in particular that we think are worth highlighting: the bounty hunters and Anakin Skywalker. First and foremost, let's talk about Cad Bane. Bane was always fun, but this arc gives him much more of an opportunity to shine than his previous appearances in the show did. Previously, Bane was mostly just a cool character with a great vibe to him, a western spin on the usual gadget-heavy bounty hunter archetype. He was good at his job, he had a lot of cool toys, and he was very vocal about how his loyalty was to his bank account and nothing else. But this arc gave us a much more complete look at Bane and shaped him into a more interesting character. When we first meet Cad Bane in prison, he's been stripped of pretty much everything: his guns, his gadgets, and tragically, his iconic hat. Because of this, we get to see a bit of who Cad Bane was beneath all the flashy tricks, a truly cunning, galaxy-class hunter. With nothing but his wits and a little help from the disguised Obi-Wan Kenobi, he manages to engineer a prison break, putting the full extent of his cleverness on display. We also get to see more of Bane's personality in the arc, and in particular, we get more detail on what motivates him. Cad Bane has always claimed to care about money and nothing else, but this arc showed us that that's not entirely true. Consider this fantastic scene, for example.
Nice hat. Where did you get it? What are you looking at? It's a nice hat.
We've seen Cad Bane kill before, but this scene is different. He doesn't kill Bulduga as part of a mission or for any professional reason. He kills him over a hat. What really makes this scene is his comment at the end though, which implies that he genuinely sees no problem with committing murder over a hat. That's pretty damn dark, and it also decisively pegs Cad Bane as an evil character, right? Well,
How dare you defy Moralo Evil?
If you're gonna kill him, do it like a man.
we've actually done an entire video analysing Cad Bane and this scene in particular, so we won't reinvent the wheel here. But this quick scene reveals that Cad Bane isn't just another evil, money-hungry murderer. On some level, he has some sort of moral compass and some sort of honor. Money isn't all he cares about after all, he also cares about skill and believes that it deserves respect. Over the course of this arc, Bane went from being suspicious of the disguised Obi-Wan to respecting him because Obi-Wan proved himself to be skilled and capable. As he saw it, the man he thought was Rako Hardeen was skilled enough to claw his way to the top, and because of that, he deserved a fair chance. And speaking of Rako Hardeen, Obi-Wan's Rako Hardeen persona was done really well. The writers walked the line between making it clear to the audience that we're still seeing Obi-Wan and making him convincing as a ruthless bounty hunter as well. Once Obi-Wan gets the hang of acting as Hardeen in the second episode, he does an extremely good job of imitating the tough guy bounty hunter type, but we get to see that Obi-Wan's still in there from brief physical cues, such as how he looks slightly disturbed after Cad Bane murders Bulduga in the scene we showed earlier. Kenobi's Hardeen persona is also a really good foil for Cad Bane. Through him, we get to see the details of how Bane eventually develops trust with people he considers worthy of respect. By the third episode, Kenobi and Bane develop some great chemistry, playing off each other in a way that's really fun to watch.
Enough small talk, I want my money.
That makes two of us.
You shall have it, and perhaps much more. Both of you, if you would like to enter our friendly little contest.
I'm in, if he's in.
You already owe me for one job, Dooku. Anything else would cost you triple.
I assure you that if you survive the challenge, the reward will be well worth it.
But what might be the most striking part of this arc is how it deals with Anakin Skywalker. With the exception of the death of his mother, we've never really gotten to see Anakin cope with the loss of anyone close to him, at least before he fell to the dark side. But at the start of this arc, that changed. Obi-Wan doesn't really die in this clip, of course, but he may as well have to Anakin, and we get to see how he would have handled it if Obi-Wan really were to die. Allow us to pull up a quote from the Revenge of the Sith novelization. The HoloNet features call him the hero with no fear. And why not? What should he be afraid of? Except fear lives inside him anyway, chewing away the firewalls around his heart. Anakin sometimes thinks of the dread that eats at his heart like a dragon. The dragon whispers of what Anakin has lost and what he will lose. The dragon reminds him every night of how he held his dying mother in his arms, of how she had spent her last strength to say, "I knew you would come for me, Anakin." The dragon reminds him every night that someday he will lose Obi-Wan, he will lose Padme, or they will lose him. All things die, Anakin Skywalker, even stars burn out. Anakin Skywalker faces his greatest fear at the start of this arc, and it's a battle he doesn't really win. He all but breaks down for the first 2 episodes of the arc, spiraling out of control as his grief turns into anger, and his anger pushes him closer to the dark side. We all remember those scenes where he beats the hell out of the man he believes killed Obi-Wan, where he abandons everything to go on a quest for revenge, where he force chokes a bartender to get information out of him faster. It gets to the point where the Jedi Council breaks their silence just to prevent him from snapping altogether. But the Vader moments in this arc don't stop after the Jedi Council tells Anakin the truth. His character makes a permanent shift, however subtle, during this arc. We see more of the dark side surface in Anakin during his duel with Dooku on Naboo at the arc's conclusion, for example. Even though Anakin knows by that point he hasn't actually lost Obi-Wan, he's still keenly aware of just how easily he could have. As a result, when he's at risk of losing Palpatine to Dooku at the arc's end, he lashes out because he doesn't want to experience the same pain a second time. It's easy to miss this undertone, but Anakin's brush with his greatest fear in this arc doesn't make it easier for him to face the dragon coiled around his heart. On the contrary, it makes his fear stronger. There's a fair bit more to talk about when it comes to things this arc did well, but that's all for this video. Perhaps we'll revisit this arc in the future after we've finished this series. But for now, what did you think of the Rako Hardeen arc? Let us know all your thoughts and more in the comments section below. We love reading them. As always guys, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.